See, trying not to cause problems. That's why I added it to Nsba, yeah, that's, or is it? Nope. It's that, but it says 11. There it is. Just have to make sure it is it. Yep, that's it. Okay. Thank you. See, that was easy.
Yeah, at that time.
See, that was easy. Excuse me. Excuse me, madam. How are you doing, lady? I'm sorry to interrupt, but I had to catch you before you had one more. She was gonna call me some more. We were trying to find a seamstress. I know. It's just a little dress that she probably making herself. It's because I asked her the other day. She got
Thought it was easy. No. I just ain't got no patience. That's why I couldn't be IT. I said me. No, me. When it comes to IT, you gotta have patience. Yeah, I ain't got none of that. I'd be like, what you load up the smoke? Then you gotta, then if it don't load, you gotta load again because you know the Wi-Fi there. You gotta try to load again. Then like, I was at Berkeley South and my Wi-Fi wouldn't connect. She was like, I help. I said, you know what? I don't even want to do it. I went to a computer. I didn't want to wait on her to try. She good. I ain't saying she good. I just didn't have the patience on the computer.
Yeah, so you forgot. You forgot you left it on.
Yeah. Like, don't come in. So they come in every day. I want to know the real school. I'm asking Mr. Bill that every time. He ain't gonna say no. She was like, all right, come here when you get back. This ain't much. This ain't great. Like 2 years is cool. Anything we need to do, all the schools. So he used to have to stuff like that. Yes. Come on, let's go. I'll take it. We got to. He said, the teacher was like, sorry, we gotta go head to head. My people. Yeah.
United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
Amen.
Under the provisions of the Public Meetings Law of the State of Missouri, the board must adopt by a roll call vote an agenda that includes the time, date, place, and tentative agenda for the meeting. A copy of the notice and agenda for this meeting was posted on Tuesday, November 5th, 2019 at the Administration Center, 8855 Dunn Road, Hazelwood, Missouri. At the same time, copies of the notice and agenda were sent to major radio and television stations, to 3 newspapers, to all municipalities, schools in the district, and posted on the district website. Could I have a recommendation, please, to adopt the agenda?
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Madam Secretary, would you call the roll, please?
Okay. Ready to go. Dr. Powell Walker. Aye. Ms. Ponder.
Aye.
Secretary votes aye. Madam President.
Aye. Ferguson Florissant Shared Image of Success. At this time, we will have the communications team present a short video of the district highlights and successes.
Halls Ferry Intermediate School students spent their Halloween learning about various careers during the school's career fair. Individuals from various blue and white collar occupations were on site speaking with the students about their respective careers. Companies represented included Pepsi, Amarin, the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, Paparazzi Photography, the Florissant Valley Fire Department, and the Believe Project, among others. Various entrepreneurs were on hand as well to speak with the students about starting and owning their own business. ELA teacher Melinda Call at Johnson Wabash had the opportunity to join a Korean War veteran on the annual Greater St. Louis Honor Flight. Mrs. Call was the flight guardian for Frank, who was a tank commander during the Korean War. Honoring veterans is the mission of Greater St. Louis Honor Flight, where mostly senior veterans experience a day of celebration with a trip to Washington, D.C. to visit the World War II memorial that was built to honor the service and sacrifice. ELA and JW students created cards, signs, and letters of thanks and appreciation for their service for Frank and the other 22 World War II Korean and Vietnam vets who attended this special trip. Congratulations to the boys swim team at the STEAM Academy at McClure South Berkeley High School for placing in second during the Suburban Conference. STEAM competed against neighboring school districts including Rittner, Hazelwood, and Acton. Special interviews were held at the Innovation School at Cool Valley on October 30th. These weren't your typical interviews. Based on their interests, students had a chance to meet with district administration staff and representatives from other brands and organizations to interview them about their experience in the work that they do to see if the companies will be a good fit for them. Later in the semester, students will be scheduled to shadow the fields that they're interested in, and will schedule more formal interviews with organizations and companies for the actual internship. This is a part of the big picture learning framework that the Innovation School is modeled after to ensure that the students will work in their career interests through internships throughout the school week.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Missouri School Boards Association's Board Report for the month of November. We thank you for the opportunity to share some news and information during a few minutes of your board meeting. We begin with a look at the issue of vaping among Missouri's youth. Governor Mike Parson has signed an executive order directing several state agencies, including the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, to develop a statewide campaign to educate, warn, and deter the use of vaping devices among young people in Missouri. School districts throughout the state and nation have been grappling with the issue in recent months. Some have even joined a lawsuit against electronic cigarette companies that target young people because of the health risks associated with vaping. The state supervisor for alcohol and tobacco control in the State Department of Public Safety, Dorothy Taylor, says her agency is committed to preventing illegal sales to minors.
ATC will continue to support local coalitions to address the vaping epidemic, as well as meet with and provide training material to help law enforcement agencies understand the statutes related to vaping and tobacco, as well as alcohol. In addition, ATC agents plan to meet with school resource officers to offer our assistance and resources regarding vape-related matters. We are committed to continuing all these efforts and to working on education efforts aimed at retailers who sell these products.
The name of the state campaign is Clear the Air, the Risk of Youth Vaping. MSBA and the Missouri PTA will be part of the effort to inform school board members, administrators, and parents about efforts to prevent young people from vaping. The State Board of Education has decided to accept new comments about the proposed 6th version of the Missouri School Improvement Program. MSIP began in 1990 and is the state's school accountability system for reviewing and accrediting public school districts in Missouri. Nearly 1,500 comments were submitted on MSIP 6 during the initial comment period in August, and resulted in several revisions to the standards and indicators being proposed in the new version. Commissioner of Education Margie Van Dieven says the philosophy behind the Missouri School Improvement Program has changed over the years.
In the early days where it was counting books and counting resources and counting seats, and then it sort of progressed to maybe we should look at a little bit of the quality of that, and then it progressed to people saying, you know what, if our kids are achieving, why do you care how we do our business at the local level? We're a local control state. Let's just look at student outputs. So that's where we ended up in 4th and in MSIP 5 where it became solely on performance. The pendulum is starting to swing back where people are saying, it does matter how we do our business. It does matter about some of the inputs. So let's look at both, and that's where we're heading in MSIP 6. It is not yet resolved.
Van Dieven made her comments during a panel discussion at the recent MSBA annual conference. The new comment period for the MSIP 6 standards and indicators will run from December 16th through January 15th. You can submit your comments via the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education's website. As you may know, state law now requires all school board members not only to receive training in their first year of service, but also 1 hour of refresher training for every subsequent year of board service. The training must include concepts covered in the initial training, plus the prevention of sexual abuse of children. There are 2 ways to comply with the new refresher requirements. A 3-hour in-person session will satisfy the requirement for 3 years if there's no break in service. A 1-hour online session will satisfy the requirement for 1 year. Visit the MSBA website for dates and locations for the in-person refresher training, as well as information on the online session. Filing for school board seats up for election in April opens on December 17th in most school districts in the state. MSBA will have free resources available to school board candidates posted on the MSBA website, including a candidate's guide to running for the school board and information on the roles and responsibilities of school boards. Filing for school board seats closes on January 21st. That's it for this month's edition of the MSBA Board Report. Thanks for allowing us to have some time at your board meeting, and so long from Columbia.
The board allocates this portion of the meeting to allow stakeholders the opportunity to comment on both agenda items and non-agenda items at the start of each board meeting. Prior to the public comment period, participants are asked to fill out a comment card with their name, address, phone number, email address, and topic of the address, and will be allowed up to 3 minutes to speak. Members of the audience who wish to speak to the board are requested to speak from the podium, identify themselves in keeping with the district policies 4054 and 4059, and personnel law should refrain from making negative comments that are personally identifiable. While the board will not directly respond to speakers during the public comment period, the board president may make clarifying remarks at the end of the comment session to correct any misstatements of facts. At this time, Mr. Schrader, would you come forward?
Good evening. My name is Paul Schrader. I'm a retired teacher and retired school board member. And I want to thank President Hogshead for the moment of silence in honor of Mildred Winter. It's kind of personal. She was in our early childhood program back in the 60s. Most people don't know that. And as director, Ferguson-Florissant was one of 4 school districts in the state of Missouri that was singled out to pilot a new preschool program that involved parents along with the kids. We did that pilot. It was successful, and in 1972, Mildred moved to work for the State Board of Education in expanding this program throughout the state. It's now called Parents as Teachers. Throughout the state of Missouri, all 50 states of the United States and 7 foreign countries now have this program. We were on the cutting edge of making that happen. And you can't live in the past, but I want to move to what we're doing with early childhood now. And when I was on the board, I know that we had reports from our early childhood department about how successful this program is, how our kids that participate continuously score better than those that don't throughout all 12 years of their education. We know this works. We have 50 years of data to prove it. In Dr. Davis's State of the District message last week, he talked about the new programs we're trying, almost all aimed at raising student achievement. We have a program that we know raises student achievement. And Dr. Davis alluded to that program in his statement. Unfortunately, there were 5 words that cut to my soul. We've increased the enrollment in preschool. I forget the exact percentage of numbers. And he followed that exactly with these 5 words. We have a waiting list. Why do we have a waiting list for a program that we know works? We have data that proves it works. We know it improves student achievement. Dr. Davis has said many times he'd like to have 100% of our kids in the preschool program. Our finances are now at a position that we're pretty stable and in pretty good shape. So I challenge the 7 of the board members, they're not all here tonight, but all 7 of you, let's make Dr. Davis's goal reality. Let's stop being just a goal. Let's make it happen. Find the teachers, find the materials, find the space. Let's make this happen. We have data that proves it raises achievement. Why aren't we doing it? And I really want to see that happen. We should never, ever have a waiting list. When parents want it, we know it works, but sorry, no room at the inn for you tonight. That's not what we want.
Good evening. One of my questions have already been addressed, but to my other question, I wanted to know if it would be a possibility when other parents come up and ask questions and then you meet with them after the meeting, is it possible to get the answer to the question for everybody? Because sometimes I'd like to know the answer too. Thank you.
Well, hello, everyone. Hi, County. I just was talking to Dr. Davis. I thought it was interesting if anybody saw the Elliot Davis and Kelvin Adams piece. I guess my heart went out to him and the board. He was going through the historic high schools that they have in St. Louis Public Schools, and like I just remember he was talking about Beaumont, which my deceased dad graduated from, and it having the capacity of 1,700 students, and I thought he said there was something like 200 to 300 in there now. So my goodness, when I think about the challenges that we had and we went through, I guess what I'd say is. My hope is that he can do a lot for the kids in public school when I saw that. So other than that, I guess what I'd say is we're really, I'm getting, shall we say, I shared this with Dr. Davis also, some really good comments about the climate change or the decorum as I believe that we'll talk about later. So it's good to hear real good, positive things that are going on with our students and our staff, and as we go forward, I agree with what Paul Schrader said also. I've often even wanted to expand that to summer school, to where we could just, any parent that wanted, even if their kid didn't meet the requirement, the child didn't meet the requirement. So, we've got some work to do, but I think we're doing some positive things. So, thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I will be talking about stakeholder and community engagement. The Equity Committee continues to meet. We have been reviewing the Forward Through Ferguson report and seeking ways that the district can address those items related to our students. The students in our My Brother's Keeper mentoring program will be leading a toy drive in the coming weeks to help our other families in the district. There is something that changes a person when you see others' needs and take action to help meet those needs. Our Family and Community Engagement, or FACE department, is building out a partnership network database so we can honor the individuals and organizations that share their time and their resources to serve our students and staff. We know that those quality partnerships are essential to growing a stronger community. We had a great board recognition meeting on the 23rd of October. It was good to celebrate the accomplishments of our students and staff, and we're looking to celebrating even more students at our next recognition meeting on January 22nd. Again, I'd like to remind you to add the district mobile app to your phone. There's a lot to talk about that is being like bad weather on the app. It is the best way to get those notifications about the bad weather, but also the other notifications about important information regarding our schools. So if you have it, if you have it on your phone, anybody have it on your phone? Let's see. All right. If you need help finding it, we have Kevin in the back. He can show you exactly how to upload it, download it, so you can make sure you have access to that. So there's just some ways that the Ferguson-Florissant School District is connecting with our stakeholders. So I do apologize last month for missing the board meeting. I try not to do that, but for religious reasons, I was not in attendance last month. With that being said, I did miss talking about my experience at the CUBE conference. I first want to thank everyone in this room for allowing me to represent you all in Miami. It was a wonderful, wonderful experience. I know Dr. Davis and Dr. Sheila Paul Walker talked a lot about that, so I don't want to go into too much details. But I do want to say that the experience was phenomenal, and it was a very, very rewarding experience. Two things that I want to be able to bring back and want to implement and kind of share with you. One of the trainings that I did go to was about operationalizing the dream, and it talked about urban districts and their equity journey. And basically it talked about from their vision of creating equity in their school and then practical implementation. And in that, it talked about creating school-based equity teams, and it talked about how having multi-year professional development, cultural competence, and just culturally responsive teachings. And part of our equity team work will be looking at some of these steps and how can we make that a part of our district. And one of the most important things it talked about is including students and the student voice. And one thing that we experienced while we were down there, we had the opportunity to see a student panel, and it was a panel of girls that were speaking. And I would like to be able to host a student panel here of our girls. And I know it's going to take some work to get this together, but the theme of it will really look at the discipline that our female students are experiencing, because the high rates of discipline in Black and brown girls is something that's big in our population, and I really want to take a look at it and hear from their own words how it's affecting them. So it'll be something to look forward to. So stay tuned.
Hello, everyone. And I'm really jealous because I missed that conference because on the night before I was in the hospital. Okay, this chair, I'm trying to roll this chair up. Thank you, I appreciate that. So, and also Paul, thank you for your report. I am an early childhood advocate, and I agree with you, and I would like for us not to have anyone on the waiting list. So we're going to work on that for sure. I'm going to talk about decorum, and I want to thank Gary Beals for the report. Our PBIS team went to the National PBIS Forum in Chicago. The district had 25 members participate in the sessions, and the process that they are going through is one that's across the country. Overall, the sessions were very informative, extremely thought-provoking. A few things that stood out were relationships are key. Number one, relationships are key to any successful program or organization. How we engage families will determine how children respond to teachers and administrators. Absolutely. Schools that adopt the PBIS model must invest the time, the resources, human power in order to reap the benefits of the program. All the sessions help draw the conclusion that the relationship between staff and families need to be transactional and mutually beneficial for both parties. True PBIS training requires a lot of trust from both sides, but is absolutely attainable. The session also stressed the importance of having outside building relationships with students and families. Being an active member in the community that we serve is priceless, and it will legitimize the work that we do here in our school district. The final key component to the session was that student achievement is closely based on culture and climate, the culture and climate in the building. The setting for the positive and inviting culture is top down. Administrators are the trendsetters. Administrators are the administrators are the trendsetters. And I say that over and over again because I want you to get that for the appropriate culture and climate of schools, and in order for schools to be successful. Also, here are our numbers for our district referral data. Right now, we have 3,789 referrals. This is 964 fewer referrals than last year at this time. Good news. Top infractions for these referrals at secondary level include skipping class, tardiness, class disruption, refusing to comply to staff directions, and defiance. Again, we look at these numbers, and it's very important for us, and we all know that decorum is good behavior is essential to having a positive atmosphere for learning. So we want to continue to look at decorum in our school district and continue to improve these numbers. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Thurman. Dr. Powell?
Good evening. I'll talk with you about accreditation and achievement. District and administrative staff participated in a design meeting to develop a framework for personalized education plans. Personalized education plans are individualized, flexible, student-driven plans written to provide students support in setting goals for college career readiness, personal, social, emotional, and academic growth. The next design team meeting will be held in mid-November. The District Professional Development Committee continues to receive positive feedback for the high-quality professional development provided by teacher leaders. November 4th and 5th gave teacher leaders the opportunity to showcase their passion and talent around core instruction. We are hosting a K-8 Social Studies and K-5 Math Curriculum Adoption Open House for viewing of aligned core curriculum resources on November 11th. Curriculum specialists will be available to answer questions. Parents, students, teachers, and community members are welcome to this event and welcome back in December when the vendors join us for formal presentations. Please pick up a flyer in the lobby to register for these events. And then I just wanted to mention a couple of other things that are more related to just the community at large. Just a reminder to participate in the census. It's coming up. You can go to census.gov to learn more about it. There are some employment opportunities out there that people might be interested in. And I think most importantly, because I was invited to participate in a discussion about the census recently, it's just a reminder that your voice does matter. And I think the thing that I heard at this event that stuck with me the most is that programs and wishes are not funded, numbers are. So you have to make sure you participate so people understand what the unique needs are of our community so we have access to the things that we need. And then I also participated in a zoo mapping discussion. We know that there's a zoo coming to North County, and it's going to be in the Spanish Lake area. Something that stood out to me that I wanted to share with you, because maybe you know and I didn't know this. So it's a 425-acre project, and so I was just like, what does that look like as related to the zoo that we have already down at Forest Park? Because in my mind, I thought this is going to be like some little small project out here in North County that's sort of an extension, but my understanding is it's going to be like 4 to 5 times larger than the zoo that we have down at Forest Park. So I thought that was exciting. Out of this will come some employment opportunities, and they are very interested in partnering with school districts. So this is quite a ways off, I think maybe 4 or 5 years, but certainly exciting news for North County. Thank you.
Good evening. I have the talent management update for tonight. It's a pretty quick one. Grow Your Own grant. The district was successful in obtaining a $10,000 planning grant from DESE to implement a Grow Your Own program. The effort was a result of a team from several departments coming together to draft the application. Dr. Muhammad, Dr. Edson, and Executive Director of Professional Learning and Leadership, Liz Davenport, in particular, were instrumental in putting together a solid application. Kudos to them. The first planning meeting with the state will take place this Thursday. And that's all. Thank you.
We have many things going on in the month of November. November has National Education Week, and I can remember as a child, and I guess that's why it sticks with me so, is there was a big deal because at that time the superintendent always came through our schools, and we did different things with our bulletin boards to show our parents because we invited all of our parents to come in during the week. So please, let's get excited for National Education Week. Also, could I ask all the veterans in the audience to please stand up? Please remain standing. Remain standing. I would, on behalf of the board, I would like to thank you for your service. Do we have any Vietnam veterans?
Awesome.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you. My husband came home in August 50 years ago, and it just rings a lot in my head. When did you come home?
In 1967.
So thank you for your service. Thank you everybody for your service. But a week ago we had the State of the District, and it was very well attended and it was very successful. I thank all of you for coming. I thank Dr. Davis for the participation and making sure that we had a good address. And I would like to leave you with, have a very blessed Thanksgiving. Think of all of our blessings and just enjoy your family. NEA, would you like to speak at this time?
Good evening. My name is Nicole B., and I am a 5th grade science teacher at Berkeley Elementary. Good evening, board members, Dr. Davis, and stakeholders. The fall break was just what we needed to unwind and speaking with parents and guardians about our students. It was a great respite from a busy time of parent-teacher conferences. We had many parents to come to discuss with teachers about their children's academics and educational goals. It is our hope that the board and administration recognize the staff dedication to our students, parents, and other staff and administration. In addition to receiving professional development, the past couple of days have allowed the staff to have some time to catch up with planning, assessing, and PLCs with our teams. This was also welcome. The opportunity to do this work sometimes get pushed aside by other requirements and meetings. As we move forward together, the FFNEA continues to look forward to a strong relationship with the board, Dr. Davis, and the district administration and staff. Thank you.
Good evening to the board. Welcome back, Dr. Thurman. My name is Phyllis Hayden, Technology Specialist, a member of the FFNEA Executive Board, and a proud educational support profession. Educational support profession are key players on the education team that prepares Ferguson Florissant students for their future. Without us, kids won't get that extra help, attention, the bells won't ring, the buses won't run, the budget wouldn't get finalized, the phones wouldn't get answered or repaired, nutritional meals wouldn't be served, classrooms wouldn't be safe and clean, and technology devices wouldn't be served. A warm hello and a friendly smile welcomes the students to the start of their day. An ESP is usually the first person the students see every morning and the last person before heading home for the day. There's a very important celebration coming up, November the 18th through November the 22nd, 2019. Across the country, schools will celebrate excellence in education during American Education Week. And as I close, please remember the many unsung ESP heroes by celebrating the Ferguson Florissant ESP staff on Wednesday, November the 20th, 2019, on National ESP Day. Thank you and have a great evening.
Good evening, everybody. I will just say quickly that if you look outside tonight when you go home, I don't know if it's lit, but I know you can see it in the daytime, the billboard has changed. No, it's not. It looks great. It has our Teacher of the Year, our Principal of the Year, our ESP
Employee of the Year up there, and then the other side has some references to college and career readiness. So take a look at that. It's displaying our employees and folks who we love and care deeply about because you do the work, Ms. Hayden, and it's important to make sure that we acknowledge and support all of our team members. I do want to also just acknowledge Mildred Winter. I had a personal experiences actually with her. I sat in her living room with her, and I like to say I sat at her feet because she was full of wisdom. And we had the international conference here the second week in October, and I had an opportunity to go the week that she passed. And so they honored her, of course, and it was well attended from folks all across the globe were there. But she was a trailblazer. Governor Senator Kit Bond was there as well. I have some personal pictures with him and just the folks who have made that opportunity available. And it was right here in Ferguson, Florissant. And so we have some jewels in our community, and I am grateful to be a part of this work. I sit in this seat, but I'm a teacher at heart, and it's about the work that we do as educators. So I just wanted to acknowledge that, and we're going to continue to work hard. Looking at funding, not just from the board's perspective, but also from the state, always advocating for that 4% that we now get. If we can get more, that would help also, so that the burden is shared among not only the local dollars, but also our state dollars. So we absolutely have that goal, and we'll continue to work hard. The board has been, I think, that's been a priority, which is the reason that we did some of the restructuring work with pre-K included in the second grade schools, because early education to the board and myself is a priority. So thank you for those words, Mr. Schrader. Quickly, I wanted to just acknowledge again our relationship with Boeing. GJ was with us from Boeing last week when we had the State of the District. And I want to say this slowly and clearly. So Boeing has a huge contract that they have signed off on with the Air Force. And those 300 planes will be built in our community. That's a $9 billion investment in our community over the next 15, 20, 30 years. That's huge. And it's huge because those are job opportunities, not only for our students, but also for their families, for their parents. And so we're going to be meeting with the HR department at Boeing. They're going to come here, and we're going to make it happen. We're going to figure out how to advertise. We're actually applying for a grant so we can build out a plan to educate our students, our community, on what these opportunities look like. I'll end by saying that we want the parents and the students who are graduating to get those jobs that live in North County, so those dollars can come in North County, and we can recycle those dollars in our own community. That's how we're going to build economics in our community. And I'm talking about assembly jobs that many of us in this room right now who went there a couple of weeks ago and toured it ourselves. Starting $19 an hour. That's $40,000 jobs, y'all. That's a lot. That's huge for our community. And all you have to have is a high school diploma, and you have to go through and pass a 5-week training course. That's pretty strenuous, but if you can pass the test and pass the class, and certainly go through the checks, then you are able to get starting a $19 an hour job. Every 6 months, they give you a 50-cent increase if you continue and are good, a great employee. And after a year, they will pay for you to go to college to get your bachelor's degree and a master's degree at the cost of Boeing. So no debt at the other end is what I'm getting at as well. That's huge. So I just want to say that as we continue to build this out, this is what we have to do in our community. And it's not just for Ferg Floor, it's for North County, period, the whole region. But we want Ferg Floor to be at the forefront of that, which is why we're building that partnership. So I just wanted to underscore that. I also want to take an opportunity to recognize Dr. McLean. He stood up a minute ago as a veteran, but he's also one of our partners who's been working with our schools around organizational health. They've been deeply diving into that. So Dr. McLean, just stand again. I'm going to give him a round of applause for the work he's doing with our team. When I talk about Leon, I always think about, it's kind of funny because when you get this data, that data is powerful because it's a clear indicator of how people are feeling about our school, their jobs, what's going on in the spaces they're in. It's almost like a crystal ball, if you will, that gives you a good sense of how folks think about the workplace. And that's important. Morale is important. Goal focus is important. Adaptation is important. So how do we increase those metrics so that people feel really good about the work they do in the place they're doing it in? And so this tool has been amazing for us, and I'm super excited about it. A couple of other quick things. We're going to be having a retreat coming up in December, specifically looking at our strategic plan. The board has charged me with looking at our strategic plan and revising some of that work. And I can tell you that there will be a strong equity theme throughout that I bring to the board as a recommendation, and then they'll give me direction on which way to go. I will say that, in this process, though, stakeholders will be involved. We always, just like the graduate profile, it took us about 2 years. It won't take this long to do that unless, it warrants it. But we'll make sure that teachers, support staff, families, community is involved with this sort of revising our strategic plan. I'll end by saying that, today we met. Every Wednesday we meet, looking at decorum. That is a priority the board has placed on me in my evaluation, and I take very seriously, but I also believe strongly in. And I've had many conversations with principals, assistant principals, leaders in our schools, talking specifically about the importance of safe schools. And I cannot stress enough how important that is. We had the press conference right here. We're thinking strongly about supports that we put in place to help our students, but we want to make sure that we make safety a priority in not only our schools, but our community. And so I think we are going in the right direction, but we have so much more to do, and it can only be done as a team. I can't by myself. I'm inadequate to do it alone. I need everybody. We need each other to continue making our schools safer so that our students get educated well. Finally, I say this often, that the best economic developer is education. And as we improve our schools, we want people to choose Ferg Floor first as an option when they think about educating their children. So thank you for that. I wish everybody, we'll be back, I think, on the 20th, but if I don't get to see you, happy Thanksgiving, and eat all the turkey you can.
So I'd like to add on to your Boeing thing as quick as I can. I don't know how many of you have met my son, Jared. He was diagnosed in 6th grade with a rare form of autism. So as a parent, as you go forward, there's many challenges, and you just kind of, wonder what the future looks like. I don't know how many in the room know of a person named Max Starkloff. Well, he had an auto accident in the 1950s and dedicated his whole life to helping disabled people. Well, that also has branched out, and we just were made aware of this program that was founded by him, I guess, through his organizations. I believe he's passed away now, called Dream Big. In that program, and blew up Susan in my mind, was we've had meetings with them, and they've developed avenues to where, well, I'll just say Jared's going to college next year. But with their partners, and I thought of this with what you're saying, is they found out that all throughout at least the autism spectrum, that these students or children as they get to be adults are awesome employees. And what they found was that they can, like Jared, it might take you 10 times to show him something, but once he gets it, he never forgets it. So they're finding these big companies, and Boeing was one of them, Centene's another one, and I could go on and on. They're finding that they put a lot of money up front in the training, but because of their challenges, they have an employee for life, and they hardly ever call in sick. They're great employees, and the reason I'm saying this is, who would have thought that all these opportunities are available at the wages that you're saying, to where they'll be able, and my son will be able to, support a family, living wages and things like that. So I just wanted to say I was as guilty as a lot of people in my head, wondering about limits and where, I'm just saying that, there's places out there now where kids from all different areas, backgrounds, disabilities can find opportunities. It's just you have to find the roads and the pathways, but they can definitely succeed, and you jog my memory with that, and I wanted to throw that out there in case anybody knows someone or anything, and I'd be more than willing to help, but it's really encouraging when you talk about all the opportunities and what Dr. Sheila said with the zoo and things like that. I mean, these companies are starting to realize that, we don't need to be so locked in on the traditional way of getting from point A to point B. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And Board, Dr. Davis mentioned November 20th is our next work study session. And at that work study session, we will be working with the equity resolution on how to make it a living and breathing document and how we're going to move it forward. Also then on December 7th, we have an all-day or till 2 o'clock, Scott, work study session from 8:30 in the morning, and that's on strategic plan and a few other things. So thank you. The 3-year terms of Ferguson Florissant School District Board members Rob Chabot, Dr. Paulette Thurman, and Jessica Ponder expires April 20th, 2020. Declarations of candidacy may be picked up in the office of the superintendent at 8855 Dunn Road, Hazelwood, Missouri, from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. on the days the district is open. Under Missouri law, the first day to file as a candidate is Tuesday, November 17th. Filing closes at 5 p.m. on Tuesday, January 21st, 2020. School district offices will be closed Monday, December 23rd, 2019 through Friday, January 3rd, 2020. The annual election for the School Board of Education is Tuesday, April 7th, 2020. A person who wishes to file for candidacy for the Board of Education must be a citizen of the United States, at least 24 years old, a resident taxpayer of the school district, a resident of the state of Missouri for at least 1 year. In addition, the candidate must follow these procedures: file a declaration of candidacy, filing pursuant to District Policy 4013. The Ferguson Florissant District Board election in April 2020 will be conducted by cumulative voting, a change ordered by the federal court. In cumulative voting, voters cast as many votes as there are seats. Voters are not limited to giving only one vote to a candidate. Instead, they can give their votes to one or more candidates. For instance, in this election, the 3 open board seats, voters could choose to give 1 vote each to 3 candidates, 1 vote to 1 candidate and 2 votes to another, or 3 votes to a single candidate. The consent agenda. At this time, Madam Secretary, would you please read the disbursements?
Yes, for payroll, teacher and non-teacher, $8,218,896.40. Operational disbursements, $2,306,485.30. with a total of $10,525,281.70.
Do I have a motion to accept the... Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. McClure North Senior Trip. Dr. Bland?
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm going to ask that the, here they are, the McClure and McClure North team come up at this time also, the principals and assistant principals. McClure and McClure North would like to celebrate seniors' completion of high school by participating in a senior trip to Orlando, Florida. Students will travel in a chartered motor coach arranged by Memorable Sports, March 22nd through 26, 2020, leaving on the evening of the 22nd. The itinerary includes Universal Studios and volcano-themed water park. A minimum of 100 seniors who meet the AAA criterion may attend. The AAA criterion requires 90% attendance, good academic and behavioral standings. Parents and students will also be required to attend a parent meeting. Ferguson-Florissant School District employee chaperones will also attend the trip. The cost of the trip, including transportation, is approximately $750 to $775 per student. This includes meals. Several fundraising activities will be offered in order to bring the cost per student below $500 or perhaps even lower. Freedom Fundraising, a company utilized by previous senior trips, will be one fundraiser, along with TJ's Pizza and involvement from both parent organizations at both high schools. Funding sources would be approximately $750 to $775 per student. The recommendation is to approve the senior trip to Orlando, Florida for McClure and McClure North High School students. I'm going to ask at this time the senior principals who have courageously pleaded to have this opportunity for their seniors to come up, Mr. Emmerich and Dr. Harris, to come up at this time and share more information.
It's actually, I will intervene quickly and say it's actually Dr. Emmerich. He has defended his dissertation successfully, so congratulations.
That was November, a couple weeks ago.
A couple of weeks ago. Excuse me, Dr. Emmerich. I didn't know you didn't tell me
Graduation's on the 7th.
that.
So. Okay, good evening. So Mr. Gerald's passing out folders there that have the information that I'm going to cover, which is also on this slideshow, but you have a copy of the slideshow in there as well. So the what of this, like Dr. Bland said, it's a celebratory trip available to the class of 2020. It includes 4 days, 3 nights in Orlando, Florida, a day at Volcano Bay themed water park, 2 days at Universal Studios, and a visit to Full Sail University. So the why of this, seniors have worked hard to achieve success in their high school career. They will have access to an opportunity to travel and hopefully develop a desire to see the rest of the world. Students will experience the results of their hard work in school. Again, when? This is during the Ferguson-Florissant spring break week. So we'd leave that late night Sunday and take that motor coach down and arrive Monday morning. And then we would arrive back at McClure Thursday evening, March 26th. So again, Dr. Bland touched on this, the who. This would be available to, that is AAA seniors. Those who have maintained 90% attendance are on track to graduate and have had no suspensions. Chaperones also are included in this. There's a 1 to 10, one chaperone for every 10 student ratio. Those chaperones are FFSD staff. If we require more chaperones than that, if we don't have staff volunteers for that, we can have vetted parents if necessary. Currently, we're estimating 100 seniors to attend. I've looked at the numbers. I just recently looked at the numbers, and we have plenty of students who will qualify through this AAA through the AAA pledge. So getting 100 seniors interested in wanting to go is not a problem. They're the ones who want it to go in the first place. So again, the how, the travel arrangements, including the bus, that's made through a company, an A+ rated company, Memorable Tours, LLC. They are also fully bonded. Okay. Dr. Bland talked about the cost of the trip. It is $575. That includes transportation and breakfast each day in Florida, as well as the points listed there. The deluxe hotel accommodations, I received word that the hotel resort that Memorable Tours uses is one called Rosen Inn, a very nice hotel there in Orlando. It's got the breakfast buffet there, again, the access to the parks, an evening at Universal City Walk, Disney Springs. Also, we're going to have the trip to Full Sail University there. Full Sail University specializes in performing arts, music production, and areas that our students have expressed a lot of interest in as well. The lunch and dinner are on your own. Food budget of about $40 a day would be advisable for each student. Obviously, some students would eat cheaper than that. Some would maybe they want a filet mignon or something, and they'd be a little more on the expensive side. So we'd be looking at a total of approximately $775. So when it comes to the finances and collecting payments and things like that, I drafted a payment schedule there. You can see that the only non-refundable part there would be a $75 reservation deposit. Any refund policy would follow the Memorable Tours, the company that's setting it up. It would follow their refund policy, which is written there. Obviously, students can pay $25 and maybe the next week put $40 or $75 and $80 and just as much as they can when they can. This payment schedule would be a good suggestion to try to stick to. Fundraising opportunities, as Dr. Bland mentioned, we're working with Freedom Fundraising, who I know Mr. Downing used last year for his senior trip. TJ's Pizza as an old standby as well. PTSO is interested in sponsoring plenty of events for us, be that raffles or trivia nights, senior breakfast, things of that nature, to help raise funds for this as well. Any funds or payments collected, they're collected according to our policy and guidelines by our building bookkeeper, respective building bookkeepers. Is that it? Is that the last one? Okay. All right.
Any questions?
Questions? Yes. That's preliminary estimate. Yeah, 50 from each school right now. We would get a third bus. Yeah. The buses are about 50 to 55. So if we had 125 express interest, I'd push to get as close to 150 as possible. Fill the bus.
Turn my mic on. Makes me a little nervous because of the liability with taking students away from home. However, it makes me happy to think that you all would want to do something like that for our students. And we want them to be safe, and we know that you're responsible people and all of that. But are you at all concerned about the possibility of all the things that are going on in my head that could go on in the hotel rooms with little boys and little girls and who are mischievous? With 1 in 10, how do you plan to monitor our students once they're supposed to be in bed alone?
So this is the same board that approved.
Right, they went all
This
the way
is
to
the
Hawaii.
same board that approved for us to take students to Hawaii
How did that go?
last year. And we were able to put students on an airplane and fly them to Hawaii last year without incident. This is the same board that approved for us to take students to Branson last year and to Wisconsin Dells the year before. The Decorum Chairperson, this is one of those ways that we are rewarding the 800 plus students at McClure and McClure North who are living up to those expectations. That translates into that 100 fewer discipline incidents you have. And we have our own personal success story. We have a student, Micah Talley, who graduated from McClure High School last year, who received a $5,000 scholarship from a philanthropic organization, Mentors in Motion. And we are still partnering with Mentors in Motion. They delivered to my office this past week 2 boxes full of sweatshirts with their logo and our school's name on it in honor of Micah Talley, to be able to give out to students in our building as it is getting cooler. Micah is enrolled at Full Sail University as a student, and so Full Sail University was not a random choice. We have many of our students, when you talk about the cultural implications, who are interested in music, and that is an accredited institution. So that's just another personal aside as to why we chose to put that nugget of information about Full Sail in there. Thank you.
So you were prepared to answer that question tonight, right?
I am nervous. Gut check. I am nervous, but I'll be on the bus.
Okay, okay. Well, and I just wanted to hear, what your plan is, and knowing that, this is such a great thing that you all want to do, and I'm really happy about it. But I just want to make sure that you guys are doing what you need to do to make sure our kids are safe, and yourselves too, that you're covered because of liability.
We've met and discussed having a real specific schedule of monitoring during the, and room checks during the visit. And we also referenced to Mr. Ford, who led the first trip. And so he also shared with us their schedule of supervision when they went to the Dell. So yes, that was a piece that we discussed. No, I am not going.
The room checks is just one measure. So that's why we have male and female chaperones. And so, for example, when we went to Wisconsin, we had female chaperones and male chaperones. For example, I was assigned certain rooms, and I did room checks. And we were on duty. We didn't necessarily, when they were asleep, we were awake, watching the hallways. And so I spent a lot of time in the lobby at the Wisconsin Dells Kalahari Resort. Yep.
This may be the same board that approved it last year and the year before, but it is also the same board that is responsible for all of our students, and we take it very seriously. I take it very seriously, and I hear Donna also, and it's nothing light. We have had senior trips go where when the students came back, they had to go into alcohol rehab because there was so much drinking on the activity. I also had a student come back and he had shot somebody because of all the alcohol and all the problem they had on the senior trip. So I take this very seriously. It's not a joke. And are you doing a code of conduct and having them sign it if there is underage drinking? Are you sending them back? What are we doing with that?
So thank you. So we have a mandatory meeting. We have a mandatory meeting, and again, we're nervous. We've been nervous we were nervous 3 years ago, and I say that this is the same board because we appreciate you trusting us. That's why I said that. Like, your confidence in us has been amazing. That's why I said that. So I take it very seriously as well, and that's why I have chosen to travel with them. But it's the opportunities. It is frightening. The other piece to that is when those students, there was, for example, a student with autism who went with us to Branson. And that student, just one of the additional measures we put in place, that student had a buddy that was assigned to him the entire time. So it was the equity piece that we had addressed as well. And then finally, the administrators on the trip was, not only did we have the grade level administrator, but the building principal. In terms of the students, if they do, we went over the law piece of it and informed the students that, you know, they were still subject to the student expectation code, but I was fully prepared in working with our finance office, and we even had our CFO and our Mr. Brooks and Ms. Madruzik were on call for us while we were away. We were allowed to travel with additional financial resources. So if anything like that came up, the district again stepped up and made sure we had the provisions if we in fact had to transport a student to a medical facility, or if I would have had to fly back to Missouri, for example, or drive back. We also had a staff member who drove. We had access to a vehicle while we were there, and those are just additional measures that we put in place so that if it came up, we could take care of those students.
One of the questions that I have has to just do with the affordability of the trip itself. You know, we know there's probably no scenario where we can make sure every single student who deserves to go can go if they don't have the money. But I did wonder about that. And if there has been any thought given to how do we support those students who are genuinely deserving, but their families just don't have the money. And if they cannot do this trip, is there an alternative thing that is less expensive? So that our only option isn't something that is too expensive. You know, like we may have something that might be more local, or something that students may not even have to pay for to celebrate them.
That's a great second question. So the answer is yes. What we've done, and we are prepared to do that again. With regard to the money, the students are not the only ones who are saddled with the responsibility of raising the money. So for example, when we went to Branson, and we did the exact same thing when we went to Wisconsin, I worked at the White Castle. I went in and worked at White Castle, myself and Dr. Ford, in their kitchen, serving hamburgers. I worked the grill, Dr. Ford worked the cash register, and we participated in fundraisers to raise money that went into an account for those students to help defray the costs. We also did the same thing at McAllister's. They partnered with us as well, and we got the proceeds because it was a McClure Day at McAllister's, and so we actually worked to defray the cost and drive it down for students who could not afford. So there was, I guess for lack of a better word, like scholarship opportunities available for students. And, you know, we told them, you know, hey, you want to go, let us know so that we can be working. And so we worked to, and just to be totally transparent, not to mention the money that came out of our own pockets to support students who came to us with, concerns or needs. Did I answer all of your questions, Dr. Powell Walker?
Well, you answered the part about how to make this trip as affordable as possible.
Right.
But I do wonder about the kids who can't even do that.
So we talked about as a very viable option going back to the Kalahari Resort at the Wisconsin Dells as our very, we think is a viable second option we talked about when we met.
So I think she's referring to the students who can't
So
afford it, and that's
an entire,
local opportunity here.
another trip.
Yeah, so it may not.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so it may not be something that you would have to come up with tonight, but I
Right.
just would ask that you all do some thinking. I love the idea of taking kids somewhere that maybe they've never been before
Right.
and having them to be exposed and become inspired to travel the world. But I also think about those kids who come out of homes where there's good, hard-working folks in those homes,
Yeah.
but they just make enough money to keep the lights on and to make sure everybody's clean and has food, and then they don't get the opportunity to do something like this because we have, not intentionally, but we've kind of put it out of their reach. So I just wonder, it's not a fixable thing tonight, but it's just something I would ask that you do some thinking about. My second question has to do with the $75 deposit that is not refundable. So I know you said that that is something that is a rule for, is it Memorable Tours? That's a rule for them. But is that money refundable to students and their families as long as it's in our hands? In other words, once we collect it, we hold it for a period of time. At some point, we hand it over to them. So I would like to think that it could be refundable to them prior to being handed over to the company. So I think it would be, if possible, to communicate that in a way so families know you have until this date, rather than just saying there's no refund, because $75 is a lot of money. So that's all I have. Thank you.
I do have a, okay.
So we are planning a parents' meeting, and that date is November 14th, so that we can be very clear with parents about what expectations are, and so that they can also sign a code of conduct with clear expectations for the trip. So I just wanted to make sure you guys know that we are planning that session, and we will also discuss the $75 non-refundable fee, or maybe not. So I just wanted to share that we will be planning that.
I have another question too, and it does have to do with decorum. One of the things that you've said is that the students who are eligible to go, you talk about the attendance and you talk about on track to graduate, and you said had no long-term suspensions. What about students who have been suspended, or students, are you looking at any other kind of behavior? Because that kind of concerns me that if there's a student who maybe he didn't get a long-term suspension, but he's doing things in school and getting in trouble, and I don't know about taking him on a bus.
So what you have is not the final version. When you look at the presentation, because we did have conversation around who can go, and we landed at no suspension. So if you look at this presentation here, it says students who have no suspension. So I don't think you have the final. Yes, it's no suspensions. Yeah. And we did that because, to your point about long-term or suspension, so we set the goal and students know what they are expected to achieve, and then they need to work very hard at making sure that happens.
Okay, and it still kind of concerns me, because if we have students who are just defiant to adults, maybe they're not getting suspended, but again, it kind of concerns me on a trip like this, if you've got a student who's consistently defiant and disrespectful to adults. So I don't know how you will monitor that or use that as.
But they also have to have a whole bunch of other stuff to get that. And so most likely, if they're doing the defiant to adults and other that, I guarantee you they probably not the other A's that qualify.
Not necessarily.
Okay.
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily, but I
Because
just...
yeah, we've had some A students who have had A mouths too. Yes. Yes, and think they're a little bit smarter than the adults. So I just want to make sure that we cover everything before we vote on allowing students to go, that you are really taking a deep dive into thinking about what other things we need to do before you go, because we want to be able to look at parents in the face and say that we feel that this is going to be a safe trip for your child.
And maybe you need to have recommendations from the teachers, their teachers, that would help with the A+ mouths and defiance. Also, my question is, how much is this company making off our students? I'm not sure. Recommendations from teachers.
I don't know the answer to that.
I don't think they're doing it out of the goodness of their heart.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, and the $40 a day for food, that kind of concerns me. I know that's a part of the whole bundle of money that the students will have. But if they're doing the fundraising, I guess you just kind of add what they make from the fundraiser to their bill or to their, what do you call it, the monies that they raise. So that you are thinking that $40 a day should cover the lunch and dinner. Do they have that money, or do you all pay for it when they go and eat? How does that work?
They would be fundraising towards the 575.
I got that part, but do you all give the money to them in their pockets, or will you be giving the money out to them for the dinner and for the lunch?
So they would be fundraising, and we would manage the $575 for the trip. And then we just estimated about $40 a day, but that would be their own money.
So if they didn't have the money with them, they may not eat. They would eat breakfast, but they may not eat the other meals if they can only earn the $575.
Right.
Okay. I see what you're asking. Okay.
They really wanted to go, and they really didn't show you or know.
Right. How do we know they're going to have it?
Then they would only have one meal a day, which was provided. I mean, this could happen because somebody might want to go bad enough, and I agree with Dr. Powell Walker with the fact that the students that would like to go have the good mouth and have the good attitude and grades, and then can't go because they can't raise the money. So
or say that they can have the money, and do you all know? Do they have to prove that they have the money?
Oh, before we go.
Yes.
That would be desired, yes, because they do need to eat before.
Absolutely.
So
that's what I'm looking at. I want to make sure that we don't have kids out there who are not eating. And I know that you guys will come out of your pockets and make sure everybody eats, because I know you all. But we just want to make sure that
so they would
every
raise
base is covered.
So let me, I guess, clarify. They would raise the $575 for the trip, and then the next paragraph talks about lunch and dinner, which would be additional approximate $200, and that would be for food and other expenses that they would need to raise.
Adds up to the $775,
yes,
right?
Ma'am.
But again, I'm not understanding how
they would get the money.
You all
Yes,
disseminate?
I see what you're saying. So once we get the $575, each student has an account, and the school will balance or manage that account. So if Adrian raises $700, we take the $575, and then the $125 would go towards her expenses, and we'd give that to her to manage her spending.
But that may not be enough for her to eat every day.
Well, so it's $200, and we said $40 a day, so that's over.
That's a lot. That's a lot.
So one thing I'm thinking about, I know you're going to meet with the parents, and I just wanted to throw this out there. Like when people go on trips, they bring money with them. And I think that parents just need to understand that your child's going to need this amount of money. And I also would like to think that we have a backup plan as a district, that if something were to happen and we were there, because I just don't think you're going to be able to account for every scenario that could potentially come up. And these are by the time they graduate, these are adults for the most part. And so I don't know, that's just me. I know we want to make sure kids eat, but I don't know about the hold everybody's money and issue it to you when it's time for you to eat. That's just the way I feel like some of that is just too much hand-holding, and I would like to think that some of these issues are not going to be as prevalent with the group of kids you're taking. Some of that is relevant if you were taking certain other kids who probably aren't going to get to go, but I would like to think you're talking about kids who are concerned about their grades, concerned about their behavior, so I would just like to think that there was some level of expectation that we could have that they're going to be responsible. But I do think that we need that safety net for those kids who just legitimately don't have it. I lost my money, somebody took my money. I think we have to have a backup plan for that, but I just wanted to throw that into the mix.
I think if you can clarify the $775 and when you collect that money, where does it go? I heard an account. I know you're going to have a conversation with parents on the 14th if the board says yes and move forward. But I think it's important to clarify the $775, where that money goes, and when does the student get the money in their hand before the trip, so that you know they have spending money for food and et cetera. Some probably will still take more, but just clarity around the $775, when you get it, when it goes out, who it goes out to. What I think I heard was $575 goes to the company for the trip, and then the $200 goes to the student for their $40 a day. So just sort of clarify that part, because I think that's some of what I think I've heard in terms of confusion.
Well, I'm confused still, even with that, on when I'm reading this. Do they have to have 575 to go on the trip, or do they have to have 775? What number are you telling them they have got to have to go?
So they need 575 for the trip, but we know they need to eat, and we know that there may be some additional expenses. So 775 would be a safe number for kids to participate in the trip and also have food.
But that's not what their fundraising and everything is. Their
Yes.
fundraising is for 575, is that correct?
No.
Or is their fundraising for 775?
They're fundraising for 775.
That's what they have to have to be able to go.
Yes. Because they need to eat when they get there. Yes.
That's what I Any other questions? All right, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? No. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Stock exchange update, Kevin.
Oh, these are all mine.
Okay, you take.
Good evening, board. Good evening, community and family and staff. At the August board meeting, representatives from Thought Exchange presented the community engagement tool to the board and offered a no-risk trial period from September 1st through November 30th, at which time the district may terminate the agreement at no cost. Thought Exchange is a cloud-based platform which is used to host equitable, inclusive conversations and helps bring people together to make meaningful decisions. District leaders have used Thought Exchange 10 times during this trial period so far, and used it for a variety of purposes with the various stakeholder groups. The largest single exchange focused on clear book bags, pouches, and purses. We have 430 participants who shared 382 thoughts, and they provided 7,967 ratings on those thoughts. Administration announced at the State of the District changes to the book bag procedures as a result of that exchange and the feedback that we received through that. Administration anticipates the usage and participation rates to increase substantially over the remainder of the year. And you can see on your screen there, I wanted to pull up, this is the dashboard that is part of the Thought Exchange website, so that we can review information that comes back as part of an exchange. And you can see this is for the exchange I was just mentioning. Let me click to this other tab here, and you'll see down the left-hand side there are several different options for ways to view this data, and these are the thoughts. And this starts, it's ordered right here by the highest ranked thoughts, and you can see things from families such as, we haven't even made it through first quarter, how many students, and many students need new bags, the plastic is torn, things like students saying I'd like to have normal bags, or clear backpacks do not respect the integrity of our students. So we've gone through and looked at these thoughts along with a lot of other ones and used those to make adjustments to the policy. Not backing off from those clear book bags, because we know that we had 2 neighboring districts that had students who brought guns in book bags. But we're looking at ways to modify that based on that specific feedback. We've also had some conversation about reviewing our strategic plan, and we think that this will be a good solution to engage folks in that conversation in a way different but still meaningful than what we did several years ago when we did the other strategic plan work. So it seems like this is working well. We've got some good feedback from people, and we are excited about continuing to use this tool. And I just wanted to provide this update for you. You've already approved the purchase, but if you have additional questions before the trial period lapses, I'd be glad to entertain those questions at this time.
Kevin, is there a way you can tell how many students actually completed this?
There is. I'd have to drill down into the data, but I can do that and get that information for you. There is an opportunity, and they actually on the 31st released a new update to the program, and it has included several different additional demographic questions that we can front load onto the exchange to be able to see who's responding to various pieces. This particular exchange where we're talking about students, especially female students, having access to have some privacy regarding hygiene items and things like that, it's good to know which responses came from those female students versus someone like me who may be an empathetic dad but is still not a 16-year-old girl.
Right. And what are we doing about it, though, once we get the information?
So what are we doing with this with the book bag piece here?
And not just the book bags, the feminine hygiene situation, because that's...
So there are a couple of pieces that we've responded to. One is that the concern that people felt like the book bags were not as good a quality as what they might have purchased themselves. And so we have, Dr. Davis mentioned at the State of the District that we will be setting some parameters in place to be able to give families the option to purchase book bags of their choosing as long as they meet the guidelines that the district sets forth. We have not settled on anything additional yet as far as something beyond that pouch, that opaque pouch that we've provided for those hygiene products, but we've had some conversations, and we would want to bring that to you separate from this conversation about thought exchange, but bring that to the board with any changes that we might make to that procedure that might involve some other different smaller bag or something like that students could carry.
I know these are separate things, but I do want to say to the board and Dr. Davis that that's high priority for me. And we've had enough time. I think it's time for us to make a decision about that. So y'all can bring it to the board. So just want to say that
sure.
Before we...
Have we cleared up any issues related to the people who didn't receive the communications when they went out? Like there were people who didn't, some students didn't get the information. So
I know we had a couple of different parents who had said that their child didn't get that. We opened it back up and sent that information out again. Now, I will jump to a slightly different topic, but is tied directly to that, and that is I keep encouraging people to download the app, and Dr. Graves mentioned that in her update this evening. We have issues with both phone calls and with emails that we send through our mass notification tool, because all of us are fed up with unwanted sales calls and unwanted emails, and so those providers, whether it's your phone service or your email service, are constantly tightening up those filters to filter out that mass email. The problem is it also filters out our communications. But if people will put the app on their phone, the moment that I press send on a parent link message, whether it's an announcement about a thought exchange or whether it's some kind of weather related announcement or anything like that, it instantly shows up on your phone as a notification through that app. And as we're moving into winter weather, it's really crucial.
And I'm sure that at some point we've communicated to parents that they should download the app.
Yep.
But when we send something out specifically related to thought exchange, is there any way to just kind of put that out there to people, or somehow have people be aware that it works more effectively if you download the app? Because I just don't know. The phone calls that I got from people, I don't think they knew that that was a way to maybe have access.
And that's probably true, and we've shared information about the app in so many different forums, but I really think it is one of those things where, each one of us having conversations with our friends or people who we see online who said, well, I never got that, and just helping direct them to it. We have a friendly URL. It's fergflor.org/mobile-app. Easy to remember. And I think that will help. That's going to help our communication so much if we can just get people to do that. And it's frustrating when we put something out and people don't get the information because we want to be transparent. We want to engage people. But we need people to help us on that part of it. Yep. Thank you.
And Kevin, how long is the contract for Thought Exchange?
It's a 1-year contract.
1 year,
So,
okay.
Yeah, and
All right.
we can look at it at that point and see if it's been useful.
All right, thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
Yes. I am present. Thank you. So this item is actually an extension of a current platform that we use for both professional development materials and for our human resource management software. What this will allow us to do is to create a digital platform for the already approved support staff evaluations, which will make it much easier for evaluators to complete and also to be able to have ready access to a history of any evaluations done in their department. Additionally, the reason this is a value add is because we will be able to add certified staff evaluations to this platform with no additional cost. Currently, if we move to this platform, over the next 2 years we'll save money because Nsba actually costs almost $10,000 more than this. And right now the evaluation committee has been meeting and we're looking at moving away from the current Nsba tool. And if this is approved, we will then spend the next year building out what the next certified staff evaluation will be looking like. So this would be something where we would implement this for springtime for support staff evaluations, but not until next year for certified staff evaluations. Thank you.
The National School Board Association NSBA Annual Conference will be held April 4th through the 7th, 2020 in Chicago, Illinois. Leslie Hogshead and Dr. Joseph Davis would like to attend the conference on behalf of the district. The cost of the conference registration is $765. Housing is approximately $22 per night. Travel with Southwest is approximately $306 for an estimated total of $1,730 per attendee. I would like to add, if I may, I know I have said in the past that it's been past practice that we do not, if you've gone to one national convention, you don't get to go to 2 national conventions. But the information has come out on this convention, and I think it would be very valuable for Dr. Graves to go with us if she is able to get away. On Friday, there's an all-day session on equity and equity committees, and since she's the chairman of our district equity committee, I would like to also add her to this. Again, I know that I'm one of them that always says no, that you can only go to one, but that's past precedence, and I really think it would be valuable for Dr. Graves to go with us.
Dr. Thurman would like to go with you too if I'm re-elected.
You can't because
I didn't go.
No, you can't go because the election is the 7th.
Oh man.
You'll be campaigning. Sorry, it's not being mean or ornery.
I know.
So could I have a motion for the three of us to go, or you can do it one person at a time, or whatever you want to do. Whoever makes the motion. Somebody make a motion.
You make a motion, oh no. I make a motion that we go to the council.
Second.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
No, I'm okay.
All right. Okay, thank you, and if we could get her reservation, all of our reservations, because we haven't done anybody, and for that class on Friday.
Yeah.
At this time, could I have a motion for adjournment, please?
So moved. Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you, everybody.